we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you be in so just and faithful manner as to promote your honor and glory and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests have committed to our church. Amen. We start.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7.
That's with this one. Honorable Wilson Sosion.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 33-1, I seek leave for the adjournment of the House for purposes of discussing the urgent need for affirmative recruitment of teachers. Honorable Speaker, there is need for the Teacher Service Commission to immediately commence the process of recruitment of untrained teachers for deployment in the regions affected by mass exodus. These teachers should also be subjected to continuous in-service training to ensure that at all times the right of access to education by all children is guaranteed, and also solve the incessant teacher-initiated transfers that are initiated due to preferences or fear of certain areas. Honorable Speaker, it is for this reason that I seek leave for the adjournment of the House in order to deliberate on the urgent need for affirmative recruitment of teachers.
You have the numbers?
Yes, numbers. Yeah, enough. 5.
Yes, I confirm you have the numbers. It's only that it had appeared like you wanted to sit yourself. You have the numbers. Very well. Members, resume your seats. Yes, I would direct that the House will be moved to adjourn at all before 5:30 p.m. this evening. Reason being, should the House complete consideration of the business, all the businesses appearing, then the Honorable Sosion should be ready to move its motion even before 5:30. But should the House still be considering other businesses at the hour of 5:30, the House will then be moved by the Honorable Sosion in the same manner. Proceed.
Order number 7, statements.
Leader of Majority Party.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44, subsection 2A. I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee. The committee, Honorable Speaker, met this week at the rise of the House to give priority of business for consideration. Without anticipating debate, Honorable Speaker, I wish to know that the House is scheduled to proceed on a short recess, commencing tomorrow, subject to the approval of the motion. As a result of this, the House Business Committee has not scheduled any business for next week, save for 1, to remind members that the agenda for next week is the post-election seminar for members of the National Assembly of the 12th Parliament. Honorable Speaker, upon resumption from recess, we will consider the report of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on the vetting of the nominee for appointment to the position of Solicitor General, Mr. Kennedy Nyabuti Ogeto. Honorable Speaker, we will also consider various bills for the second reading and committee of the whole House. I encourage all chairs to the Departmental Committee to expedite consideration of the bills and table the reports when we resume. And Mr. Speaker, these bills include the Energy Bill, the Petroleum Exploration Bill, and the Cyber Crime Bill 2017. Mr. Speaker, the House Business Committee will reconvene on Tuesday, March 30th, at the end of the House to consider business for the coming week. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House. Thank you.
We will honor members before we move to the next member.
13.
Allow me to recognize the presence in the Speaker's Gallery, pupils from Kibera School for Girls from Kibra constituency, Nairobi County, and those in the public gallery from Shakina Presbyterian School, Juja constituency, Kiambu County, Kidstar Academy, Langata constituency, Nairobi County, and Jackridge School, Ruiru constituency, Kiambu County. They are all welcome to observe the proceedings in the National Assembly. Honorable Shakir Shabir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have a statement. Honorable Speaker, it's on the Kenya Power and Lighting Company. Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that there'd be an attempt to defraud me and probably other members of other colleagues of the National Assembly by persons claiming to be officers of the Kenya Power and Lighting Company working under the initiative called the Last Mile Connectivity Project. These fraudsters have been asking us for a payment of 13,800 shillings per village, that is 138,000 for 10 villages, to be paid by check to certain bank accounts for supply of transformers. Allegedly, the transformers are to be installed in the 10 villages per constituency as selected by the members of parliament. They've also come up with an agreement which will pay 744,000 shillings as wayleaf per village, and that should be payable to the member of parliament. I have the document here. Honorable Speaker, sir, I have made efforts to contact the company to confirm the authenticity of the claimants. I have the names, because as far as we know, the Last Mile Connectivity Project, which is a government initiative, is free of charge. Kenya Power and Lighting has denied having any such person in the employee who are undertaking any such activities. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, sir, through you, to caution my colleagues that this is a scam. I also call upon the Inspector General of Police to investigate this matter. I can provide further information to the police in confidence to enable this matter to be brought to a satisfactory conclusion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, adoption of the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the budget policy statement. Question to be put.
Well, now, members, debate on this motion was concluded yesterday. What remained is for the question to be put, which I hereby do. That this House adopts a report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the budget policy statement and the debt management strategy for 2018-2019 and the medium term, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27th, 2018. As many as that opinion say aye. As many as the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next.
Order number 9, motion, alteration of the calendar.
Leader of the majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 28, subsection 4, this House resolves to alter the calendar for the second session 2018 as adopted on February 14, 2018, by proceeding to a recess from Friday, March 2nd, 2018, and resuming its regular sitting on Tuesday, March 13th, 2018. Mr. Speaker, in keeping with the practice as earlier communicated by you at the start of the new parliament, the 3-day post-election seminar for members of the National Assembly will be held to follow the induction workshop that we had earlier. It is in this regard, Mr. Speaker, that this seminar has been organized to take place in Mombasa County from Sunday, March 4th, 2018 to Thursday, 8th, 2018. And Mr. Speaker, indeed, it's for this reason that the House Business Committee resolved that we alter the calendar of the House. Speaker, this is part of the new constitution. Before, you know, the calendar used to be dictated to us by the office of the president. But now it's the prerogative right of this House. I'm sure Honorable Member for Budalangi will remember during his days. So, Mr. Speaker, it's therefore important that the House adjourns to offer members an opportunity to interact and share experience with the resource persons from other legislative jurisdictions within and outside the Commonwealth. Particularly, we have resource persons from Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, Zambia, and of course, including our own experts in various disciplines on parliamentary matters. Mr. Speaker, this means we shall proceed on recess from Friday, tomorrow, 2nd March, and resume on Tuesday, 13th March, 2018, if this House approves this motion this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, I do hope that members will make use of the seminar. And of course, Mr. Speaker, it's in Mombasa. Mombasa is very popular with members of parliament. And again, this time, we are there for 4 days. So you have enough time to be in Mombasa. So, Mr. Speaker, there are some of us, Mr. Speaker, we are very, very tired. So we want to go and also rest. You know, wake up at 10, but not the staff. The staff, they have to wake up at 6:30. So, Mr. Speaker, the essence of this workshop, Mr. Speaker, one is to understand the bicameral legislatures in presidential system. All of the resource persons are people who are coming from the background of a presidential system of governance. Number two, of course, except the UK. Two, Mr. Speaker, is to comprehend the institutional relationship between the three arms of government. Three, Mr. Speaker, the workshop will analyze the role of members of parliament within political parties and their cooperation to create a functional parliamentary environment. Speaker, four, there will be a deliberation on ethics and accountability, both for the legislature and other arms of government. 5, Mr. Speaker, there will be an emphasis on the role of the legislature in budget-making process, amongst other topics. So, Mr. Speaker, may I, through you, inform the members that the clerk of the National Assembly, Speaker, this one they need to hear. Yeah, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, you know, I am introducing the gender bill, and I can see the people who are disrupting the House are people of the other gender. So how do we increase the number? Yes. The beneficiaries are the ones who are now disrupting. So we are being magnanimous to introduce that bill. But they cannot disrupt the proper functioning. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform members that the clerk of the National Assembly has concluded all the logistical arrangements with regard to the seminar, and we look forward to that seminar, Mr. Speaker. Members are advised to pick their air tickets today at the main reception, as they will depart to Mombasa on Sunday, the 4th, 2018, inshallah. So, Mr. Speaker, this is just to make sure that we comply with our own standing orders, that if we are going to have a break next week, that is an alteration to the calendar. So this motion is just procedural to alter the calendar of the House. I beg to move and ask Honorable Minority Leader Honorable Bandi, who was in the House Business Committee and a member, to second.
Honorable John Bandi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have adopted it as a routine that every new parliament we get what we call the post-election seminar to interact also with professional or experts from other jurisdictions who will meet with us, have sessions with us, and discuss with us how parliament functions in other areas. Mr. Speaker, sorry. Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize to members of parliament that it is important to understand, even if you think you do understand, especially those who are coming in for the first time, that we have a new system of government. This is a presidential system, and therefore it is important that we attend this important seminar to be able to appreciate from those who have had this system longer, like the US, how it functions. Exploit those 3 days and learn something so that when we come back, whatever we learn, the interactions we'll have with experts from Australia, the experts from Canada, those from the US, those from other jurisdictions would be of benefit to the way we conduct business in this House, even in terms of legislation. Because as a matter of fact, we are elected to legislate as a House. We are elected to represent our people. We are elected to oversight. And we will have an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, I have no doubt. I've looked at the list of resource persons. I have no doubt that this seminar will be of value and most members will come out of it. Those of us who have not even participated in legislation will be very ready to propose legislation. I'm happy that some members of parliament who have even come in for the first time, like the MP for Tiati, have started thinking very big. In fact, bringing even a constitutional amendment bill. It is not very easy to prepare a constitutional amendment bill, Mr. Speaker. And these members need to be encouraged. These members need to be praised. As to whether that bill will go through, that's a different story. But the most important thing is, as a legislator, you are required to come to this House, generate legislation. It's not just a question of talking. What you will be remembered with is when you are here, the period that you spent in this August House, did you come up with any piece of legislation? But finally, Mr. Speaker, and I want to talk about this as I wind up, that, Mr. Speaker, there are certain developments in the country that I hope going forward we will see a change. We have spoken about this, but I see the reaction from the police service, Mr. Speaker, as people who represent our people. It is high time both sides of the House talk about this thing. Mr. Speaker, it does not make sense whether you are Jubilee or NASA if a young man who is pursuing his education at the university, the parents have spent a lot of money bringing up this young man. This young man has been educated, is just about to complete his studies, has just been elected as a Secretary General. And for no reason, the police, for no reason at all, Mr. Speaker, just shoot such young man dead, Mr. Speaker. It is something that must worry us as a country. And that is why we have spoken about this, that we need serious reforms in the police. Mr. Speaker, these reforms that we are calling upon this country to go through, to accept, to carry out, they are not, it is not idle talk, Mr. Speaker. You can see, Mr. Speaker, that this young man who was a student at Meru University, Mr. Speaker, for those who thought that these police probably just become rogue in certain areas, I am sure when you watched what happened in Meru, you now have a second thought. There is need to reform the police in this country. And Mr. Speaker, I hope when we come from Mombasa, this is something that is going to be one of our priorities, to look again at where these reforms stall. Because the police reform is something that we were very keen about under Agenda 4 items, immediately after 07 election. And I have the privilege, because I was in this parliament with a few of us, in the 10th parliament. This is a matter that we took so seriously. In fact, always we were talking about Agenda 4, Agenda 4. But Mr. Speaker, we have lost the steam. We must get back to the rail. Mr. Speaker, with those very many remarks, I want to support this motion, and I ask honorable members that this is a time that we are not going to rest in Mombasa. In fact, many of us are some of us, I'm sure, and not even some, actually many of us, I'm sure, were very busy. We wanted to be elsewhere on those days, especially Sunday and Monday. But because it is an important event, we are deciding to join all of us in Mombasa, and more will be discussed there. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I second.
Honourable members, I propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provision standing on number 28, subsection 4, this House resolves to alter its calendar for the second session 2018, as adopted on February 14, 2018, by proceeding to a recess from Friday, March 2nd, 2018, and resuming its regular sittings on Tuesday, March 13th, 2018. Seems to be the desire of the House. I therefore put the question pursuant to the provision standing on number 28, subsection 4, this House resolves to alter its calendar for the second session 2018 as adopted on February 14, 2018, by proceeding on to a recess from Friday, March 2nd, 2018, and resuming its regular sittings on Tuesday, March 13, 2018. As many as that opinion say aye. As many as the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, motion, extension of the period for consideration of nominee to the office of Solicitor General.
Leader of the majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Section 13 of the Public Appointment Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, relating to the extension of period for consideration of nominees for appointment to a public office, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of the nominees submitted by His Excellency the President for appointment to the office of the Solicitor General by a further period of 10 days from 7th of March 2018. Mr. Speaker, following the alteration of the calendar of this House, which was just adopted a few minutes ago, it's important to note that the timeline for the consideration of the report will be expiring on March 7th, 2018, next week. This will coincide with the short recess. And it's for this simple reason that I'm moving this motion to extend the period for a further 10 days. In addition, the extension will allow the relevant committee do the following: 1, adequate time to vet the nominee, and 2, carry out public participation thereafter. and thereafter table the reports in the House for consideration and approval. So, Mr. Speaker, this is basic. The Justice and Legal Affairs Committee will do the public vetting of one Mr. Ogeto, a nominee for the office of Solicitor General. And Mr. Speaker, then this committee was to table this report on Tuesday next week, and of course, and then the House business to slate it for debate maybe the following day on Wednesday. But because we will be in Mombasa and the House will not be in session, and in conformity with Section 13 of the Public Appointment Parliamentary Act, I am seeking for an extension of 10 days just to make sure that the committee do the vetting tomorrow, do their report writing, and on Tuesday, 13th of March, when we are back, he tables and allow the House Business Committee to give him time to debate and consider. So it's a very, very simple matter, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move and ask the chair of Legal Affairs Committee, who is the owner of this baby, to second.
Honorable Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to confirm that indeed tomorrow, Friday, we will be vetting the nominee. And Mr. Speaker, we want then to table our report next Tuesday. Mr. Speaker, because of the change of our calendar as a House, it will not be possible, therefore, to conclude this process with.
Members, I propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Section 13 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, relating to extension of period for consideration of nominees for appointment to public office, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of the nominee submitted by His Excellency the President for appointment to the office of Solicitor General by a further period of 10 days from 7th of March 2018. The member for Suna East desires to
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I support the motion for the extension, Mr. Speaker. And this is a very important department, Mr. Speaker, of governance, the State Law Office. Mr. Speaker, as the People's Watchdog, I wanted also to put your attention as part of the enhancement of the State Law Office, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the President has nominated a new Attorney General, Mr. Speaker, some 2 to 3 weeks back, Mr. Speaker. 10 days, I think, now, and the name has not arrived here, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to raise the issue that, I'm speaking here, Mr. Speaker, it's just a matter of to converse within the House, Mr. Speaker. This is the only privilege we have, Mr. Speaker. So I feel, Mr. Speaker, there is some conflict of interest where psychologically someone will have a leg in the executive, Mr. Speaker, and another leg in the judiciary, Mr. Speaker. And he's not a small man, Mr. Speaker, he's the President of the Appeals Court, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that man should be released fast enough, Mr. Speaker, and if you can convey that message on our behalf, Mr. Speaker, as the Speaker of the House, Mr. Speaker. No. Mr. Speaker, that name should have arrived here like yesterday, Mr. Speaker. It's too late, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in fact, we shall participate.
Honorable Junet, I'm sure you've looked at the constitutional provision. Nothing becomes a subject of discussion here until it has landed here. So it could very well be taken as notice of intention. And nothing really prevents, and we cannot discuss that which is not before us. And you see, no, what is wrong? This member for Kitutu Church and North, is it North or South? The problem with you is you are always assuming that you are in Kitutu Church. And I hear that of late you call yourself Kitutu Church and North 1. Now that here you are not in Kitutu Church, therefore you are not one. So honorable members, I think now it will appear to be shooting from every corner. So if you desire to discuss that matter, and it is your right so to do, you bring in a proper motion, and the House will then be seized of it and express itself one way or other. Yes. Honourable members, I therefore put the question, which is that pursuant to the provision of Section 13 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011, relating to extension of period for consideration of nominees for appointment to a public office, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of the nominee. As many of the contrary opinions say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 11, motion, reports of the meetings of the Inter-parliamentary Union.
Who's the leader of delegation? Honorable Kosing.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, a great opportunity to move this motion. That, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Article 7 of the Statutes of Inter-parliamentary Union, this House adopts the reports of the 129th, 130th, 131st, 133rd, 134th Assemblies of Inter-parliamentary Union, IPU, and related meetings held in Geneva, Switzerland on October 7, 9, 2013, March 16 to 20th, 2014, Mr. Speaker, October 12 to 16, 2014, and October 15 to 21, 2015, Mr. Speaker, and in Lusaka, Zambia, from March 17th to 23rd, 2016, respectively, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 2018. And, Mr. Speaker, for the benefit of the House as I move, Mr. Speaker, it will be good for members to understand, as they look at these reports, Mr. Speaker, on what is IPU. IPU, Mr. Speaker, means Inter-parliamentary Union, as I said, and it was established in 1889, Mr. Speaker. It's a very old institution, and it brings together members of parliament from all over the world, and it brings together parliaments, national parliaments, regional parliaments together to discuss on very critical issues, Mr. Speaker. It sits in Geneva, but debates of the Union normally rotates in different countries and continents for members of parliament to be able to appreciate what happens in that continent, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, if you put the total of all honorable members who meet in this or under this IPU, it comes to about 800 and about 80 members, Mr. Speaker, all over the world. That is really huge number of honorable members. And coming back home, members will understand that Kenya is represented by both houses. That is Senate and ourselves, National Assembly. And in last parliament, it used to be led by Honorable Speaker of the Senate. And I'm told, Mr. Speaker, also in this parliament it's the same. And both members go together in the same delegation, and then they deliberate on issues. It's very critical, Mr. Speaker, particularly for our House and for our country, to participate. This is one of the sectors or one of the unions or one of the forums upon which the people of Kenya can be able to express their views and aspirations of the people of Kenya. It is also good, Mr. Speaker, for me to note before these honorable members that, like Parliament of Kenya, also this Inter-parliamentary Union, Mr. Speaker, works in committees. And in this one, they have about 5 committees, which I'm going to say. And I will say, Mr. Speaker, that I was privileged in the last parliament to represent our parliament in that union. And I did very well, and we did very well, those of us who were participants at that particular time. But before I say that, Mr. Speaker, which leads to this report, that in the Parliamentary Union has the following committees, which it will be good for me, Mr. Speaker, to say, because there might be other honorable members who are new members and who served last parliament who will be privileged. And I will tell them that the nomination to this assembly or union will be done by you, Honorable Speaker, because some of them then might be members of that union this time. and it's good for them to understand. So the committees which are available, then they can compete, because it's just like this parliament, Mr. Speaker. So which are these committees? Number one, Mr. Speaker, Inter-parliamentary Union works through the committee of, they call it Standing Committee on Peace and International Security. We deal with security issues that affect the world, Mr. Speaker, including terrorism, thuggery, and so on. Mr. Speaker, it also works through Standing Committee on Sustainable Development, Finance and Trade, through Committee on Standing Committee on Democracy and Human Rights, where I served. And in that committee, Mr. Speaker, I was also elected as a serious official in that committee in the last parliament, and I did my best. And I'm going to say it briefly. As a stronger institution, then to represent even that honorable member, even if from Kenya, like I was saying, Mr. Speaker, I was asked about issues that happened to some of the parliamentarians in Kenya some time back, which I reported on behalf of our parliament. So that happens in the whole world. If there are problems in other countries or other continents, then they find it themselves, Mr. Speaker, to IPU, and then IPU picks it at a high level. Mr. Speaker, also, they also deliberate on issues on better working knowledge, better working experience of parliamentarians. How can a parliamentarian be facilitated to be able to do very well in terms of its work as provided for in many constitutions? Mr. Speaker, we also realize that even in that one, Kenya is doing very well in terms of facilitation of its members, including, Mr. Speaker, provision of staff of what's happening in Kenya. It's very good. This committee and this Inter-parliamentary Union is very good, Mr. Speaker. People will learn that our 2010 constitution is one of the best constitutions in the world. Because like we have staff, some other parliamentarians may not even have staff. We have offices, some may not have offices. You will realize when you go there, if you find yourself maybe one of the people who go there. So, Mr. Speaker, those are various issues that this IPU is mandated to be able to represent the world. And it sees, as I said, they see twice a year, mainly March, April, and then October, November, and they rotate all over the world. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, when they sit, they deliberate on those issues from committees. Then from committees, then they present their report to the House. And that is why it's from this report, Mr. Speaker, or these reports which are presented to this House. And those are the deliberations. And once they deliberate and have, like these reports which are presented to you, Mr. Speaker, then what happens is that parliaments, and that's something we might need to think, Mr. Speaker, what happens is that then parliaments looks at these reports, looks at recommendations from IPU, and then picks some of them, then further it, Mr. Speaker, to become legislation. Maybe in future I might recommend, Mr. Speaker, later, maybe in our country, we might want to start a committee or have a committee at home, maybe dealing with the human rights of parliamentarians. And then so that they study these recommendations. Or, Mr. Speaker, you might want, or we might want as a country and as parliament, to make the IPU that the members of IPU that you nominate, Mr. Speaker, to become an ad hoc. So that when they come back from IPU, they can be able to sit down, propose some of these recommendations that we think it might lead to a legislation in our country, Mr. Speaker, so then our country moves very well. And as I said, their deliberations, Mr. Speaker, results into a report like what it has been presented in the House. And of course, Mr. Speaker, last week or next week, people will be going to Geneva for that. And I've given members, like the last one, they were dealing with, come back and also share with us your experience, Mr. Speaker. So this is the best opportunity. There might be members here who have not gone. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, maybe next time we'll seek your ruling or your advice so that these issues that we resolve does not stay for too long, as this one have stayed, Mr. Speaker, that there should be a committee that when this report, these are very critical issues, members have looked at it, so that when this report comes to the House, that there will be some people who will pick it and maybe even isolate and develop some of them to become legislation to be able to inform this country, Mr. Speaker. And for myself who was there, I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me that opportunity. You know, I was a new member when I was coming, and I had not traveled a lot in this country. But you saw it fit somebody from Pokot like me to get an opportunity to go. And you know what happened, Mr. Speaker? I was also able to move that amendment to ICC 2015-2016, Mr. Speaker, which won the whole world, and they approved. And it was not because of him, Mr. Speaker. Maybe I was not going to have that opportunity to play international politics. Now, I don't know, Mr. Speaker, now that I'm chairman, I don't know whether you still give me the opportunity to go. I will just let that to your able wisdom, Mr. Speaker. But you know what I did? I did very well, Mr. Speaker, and I want to encourage those who will go to be able to perform the same, Mr. Speaker. And with those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to give able leader from Narok, the great people of Narok, Honorable Soipan, to second me. We also went with one of the unions, and she whispered to me whether I can pass this message to you, but I can say that on later, Mr. Speaker, that she can also represent us this year. So with those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I ask Honorable Soipan to second me.
Honorable Soipan. Now, members, I propose a question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Article 7 of the Statutes of the Inter-parliamentary Union, this House adopts the reports of the 129th, 130th, 131st, 133rd, and 134th Assemblies of the Inter-parliamentary Union, IPU, and related meetings held in Geneva, Switzerland, on October 7th to 9th, 2013, March 16th to 20, 2014, October 12 to 2016, 2014, October 15 to 21st, 2015, and in Lusaka, Zambia, from March 17th to 23rd, 2016, respectively, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 20th, 2018. Member for Saku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this report by Honorable Kosing. And indirectly, I think he was conversing if he will be representing this parliament in future sittings of SCP IPU. And I think that is in order. It's true in 11 parliament. He did extremely well representing us. Mr. Speaker, looking at this report and seeing the function of the IPU, particularly in the area of providing a global platform, forums for parliamentarians on the issues of democracy, on the issues of security, on the matters of United Nations, and the role of Parliament in providing a platform for dialogue and interaction of people across the world. Mr. Speaker, looking at the current dispensation in the world, when you look at Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Europe, the Americans, I think we come away to clearly understand why such a forum is important for the world. Because a group of people must come together to see if what is happening today, it augurs well. Because we see failed nations, nations that do not have parliaments, nations that have been taken over by terrorists and criminals, nations that have ceased to bring forward their leadership changes through democracy. Madam Speaker, I quite agree with Honorable Kosing that sometimes we almost think, because of our elections, that we are not doing that well. But with hindsight, and as you interact with other parliamentarians around the world, and also interacting with other global citizens, you come away thinking that we Kenyans, after all, we are not doing bad. Madam Speaker, on this global platform of use of chemical weapons, also on non-combatants in some countries in the Middle East. I think over the years, the ban on chemical weapons have been advanced by progressive individuals who believe that there must be weapons in the world so long as humans inhabit this world. But trying to reduce the number of harmful weapons where civilians really do not have the capacity to defend themselves or to make themselves safe. Because chemical weapons themselves, whether they are chemical, biological, the people who can actually protect themselves are only combatant, where you need special gears to be able to safeguard and to stay safe. Madam Speaker, the other area of concern which have been discussed in this report is the area of the United Nations system. Madam Speaker, the UN is the global platform where all voices are heard of different countries across the world, whether they are big or small, in terms of land size, in terms of population. I think the UN provides us a unique platform that the voice of Kenya and that of America actually are put on the same pedestal, that not a single one is more important than the other. I think the forum of the Kenya National Assembly, we must stand up of any threat that tries to undermine the United Nations, because it stands for global good in terms of humanitarian affairs, in terms of weapons, in terms of safeguarding democracy across the world.
A platform like Inter-parliamentary Union is a good platform for members to expose themselves and see what people are doing outside there. Because when you are probably around, you would think that your mother is cooking the best food. But when you go out there, you realize that there is quite a bit to learn, and that there is quite a bit also to benchmark with what we are doing in this country and in our parliament. So it is a golden opportunity, Madam Speaker, for the office of the Speaker to be giving opportunities to members to travel abroad, and even to invite members of of other nations to come to Kenya on an inter-parliamentary exchange. So with those few remarks, I'm here to give my own personal contribution on the report on SCP-EU, and I would support the participation of this Parliament on Inter-parliamentary Union. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Well, the Honorable Kaunya Oku, Teso North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to make a contribution first to support this report and to congratulate the chairman who presented the report, Honorable Kosin. My contribution to this report really is in the area of the object, one main object of IPU, that is safeguarding international peace. Reading from the reports, though the report has been presented rather late, like the one of 2013, I'm aware one of the aspects that the IPU supported and has been supporting as international body is the promotion of peace through reconciliation. I'm aware in the 2013 report arising from their project of IPU of 2011 and 2012, they supported parliaments, 5 parliaments in Africa. One of the parliaments was Kenya. The other that was supported is Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, as well as Uganda. So noting the importance of this, particularly on the question of conflicts within certain nations, especially in Africa, it is quite an important engagement for our parliament, and indeed, we would applaud the team for the participation. But I would wish to note that it is critical that these reports, Madam Speaker, be made available and discussed as soon as the delegations come with the reports. So that a report like of that 2013, 2014 now we are discussing, 2015 and 2016, issues should have been picked up where perhaps this parliament can have an input. That way it will help us to keep pace with the projects of both the IPU and other organizations we are engaged in. So delays in getting those reports discussed before Parliament means some of the projects, like
in the 12th Parliament, to be nominated as a member through my party, the ODM, Orange Democratic Movement, and that immediately after our swearing, I felt extremely encouraged when the Speaker, during the induction, brought it to our attention collectively, and I would say, Madam Speaker, to me specifically, that as members of Parliament, we must always remember that there are high expectations from the public in terms of how it is that we would use the responsibility of oversight, the responsibility of legislation, and really the responsibility of representation to ensure that we are undertaking activities and contributing in ways that would bring a lot of prosperity, peace, and welfare in the context of unity in diversity. It is for this reason that I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the chair of the committee, and indeed to say that looking at the kinds of recommendations and also the opportunities presented when we get different members of Parliament coming together, we find opportunity not only to build and to find ways of learning as we look at the manner in which we come together as those in the Legislative Assembly to meet the responsibility that the country and specifically all the other members have of us. Madam Speaker, because I am aware that as we look at how it is that we undertake our responsibilities, we must also bear in mind the environment. We must bear in mind the kinds of concerns and tribulations. And as I look at the manner in which we can draw recommendations from this report, I am reminded even of today's paper, which indicated that there are those of us in our country who have such great challenges that some of them use the cemetery and the tombstones as an area where they would go to take solace and rest overnight. We also do have, Madam Speaker, as we scan our country and look at the concerns that the public have, clear cases of increased violence, particularly, Madam Speaker, the violence that we seem to be taking place increasingly in the space that is supposed to be the safe haven, the family, and usually coming and really being meted out by those who were supposed to take care of each other, either the husband or the wife or the children. It is for this reason, Madam Speaker, that as I also support and indeed congratulate members of the Inter-parliamentary Union Committee, seek indeed to say that I am very, very proud that even in the forthcoming Commission on the Status of Women meeting, which is taking place in New York, the 62nd Commission on the Status of Women meeting, there is going to be a special session that has indeed been organized by the Inter-parliamentary Union Bureau and the UN Women representatives from members of parliament that specifically seeks to look at how it is that we can make it safe for women in politics, and in particular to look at how it is that we can seek institutional solutions. And so, Madam Speaker, as I congratulate and thank the committee of the Inter-parliamentary Union, I would like indeed to urge that as we seek to undertake our various responsibilities of oversight, of representation, and of legislation, we remember that as we look at Vision 2030, or we look at the big four that we are going to be seeking to address, or we look at the other issues that the SDGs and any other matter that concerns those of us in this country, that we would in particular pay specific attention to how it is that when we seek to get into this August House, it is really through the road of politics, and we need to seek to look, as we share with the Inter-parliamentary Union, the lessons that are learned broadly, but I would seek, Madam Speaker, that we would, in the interest of seeking to deal with some of the most urgent concerns, look at the manner in which women in politics experience challenges, whether it would be from political parties, or it would be from cultural institutions, or it will be from any other areas that seek to deny a lot of those who have a lot of opportunity, chance to come here, sometimes as elected. I say this, Madam Speaker, because in 2007, I ran for office as Member of Parliament in my constituency, Alego Usonga, and as I thank the people of Alego Usonga, because I believe that my running in 2007 in some way propelled me to join the 12th Parliament, I still feel that as we have a conversation and as we seek to reflect and to make our parliaments in that interparliamentary space much more vibrant and useful, we would want to recall that we still do have challenges that emanate a lot from culture. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, I want to say that I am extremely honored because in 2012, as we sought indeed to try and realize the two-thirds gender principle, I had the honor of being the minister, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Development. And I was looking with a lot of expectation when we had the advisory that sought to seek that we would indeed be able to meet the two-thirds gender principle when we came to 2015. I want to thank the August House, particularly the 11th Parliament, Madam Speaker, because I note that there was a lot of progress that was made towards this rule. But I continue, Madam Speaker, to look forward because I know that there is a way that when we, in terms of the way we do our politics, in terms of the manner in which we allow contribution to come, and in terms of the way in which we get inclusivity to not only look at persons with disability, to look at age, to look at other forms of marginalization, but in particular to look at women, then we are going to find that a lot of issues that touch on basic matters like health, like water, and like many other areas will be taken care of. And so, Madam Speaker, I want to conclude by saying that I am indeed extremely pleased by the manner in which the Inter-parliamentary Union Committee captured and gathered information on this report. And I might just make the humble recommendation that as we still recognize the fact that we still do not have parity, as we make recommendations of what it is that we want to deal with, we include an element that seeks to strengthen wearing a gender lens, and in particular that seeks to make politics and parliament a place that would draw the potential that all members of parliament, especially women members of parliament, have. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Member for Sirisia.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me chance also to contribute on this IPU meeting report. Madam Speaker, this is a very important forum for this Parliament, and if all of us go with the good heart and spirit of Kenyan.
I talk, Madam Speaker, having come from an IPU meeting in New York last week, where member states were thinking of how to have a compact on immigration. And this will help different nations on how to deal with immigrants. And this was a motion that was very, very vibrant and which exposed how different countries treat immigrants in their own country. And that will help in coming up with some kind of a universal and a standard way of treating immigrants in such a way that they are going to feel like human beings, they are not going to be mistreated, and they will be as comfortable in the countries that they have migrated to as they were comfortable in the countries where they have come from. Madam Speaker, IPU works very closely with the United Nations. And this essentially helps the United Nations as it comes with resolutions and recommendations. It is helped by organizations and unions such as IPU in public participation by going to different parliaments and getting opinions from those parliaments when it is making resolutions and when deliberating on their matters. So this IPU works then very closely with the United Nations. Madam Speaker, by cooperating with United Nations, IPU also helps in averting wars and quarrels between nations. Because when members of parliament meet of countries that are adversaries, they are able to talk from personal level in such a way that when crucial matters come up between nations, they can first be approached from personal level, from friendly level, even before they get to very serious levels. And that way, many wars are averted. I remember an address that was done by former president of Zimbabwe to the United Nations, where he was talking about the way the Americans have gone to other countries and for their own personal interest. It was a very tough statement coming from a president. And had this been dealt with from a lower level with more understanding, I believe it could have been solved in a better way. Madam Speaker, Kenya is a member of IPU. It is actively involved in activities and all the resolutions that come up in their meetings. And Kenya stands to benefit from being a member of IPU. I therefore thank Honorable Kosing for his good report that he has brought to the House, and I support it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Nyasuna.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd wish to support this report. Madam Speaker, I think it's a good thing that these reports, such as from the IPU, can now make their way to the floor of this House. Because, Madam Speaker, what has happened in the past is we have gone out to some of these meetings. We have very good reports, Madam Speaker, but we don't know where to take them. So I think it is a very good thing, a very good initiative, that the reports such as from the IPU make their way to the floor of this House. And Madam Speaker, we have to take it to the next level. Even the deliberations, even the positions that our members take at Parliament, such as the IPU, should actually be deliberations that have been made as this Parliament, and our members only go to represent positions that we have already agreed on. Madam Speaker, we discover a lot of things that have been discussed out there that perhaps we did not know about. So I think it's a very, very good step. Madam Speaker, I had wanted to say this earlier when the majority leader spoke on the floor of this House, saying that they were doing us a favor, that they were I think it was to mean that the men were magnanimous to the women. I see that achieving gender equality is actually a global discussion, and it is part of this IPU report. And so when the majority leader said that they were being magnanimous to the women, I think I want to state it on record, that the gender parity debate is not about women. It is about the constitution of this country. It is about all of us working together to achieve what is within our constitution. So I think the next time the majority leader speaks about the gender bill like it is a favor he is doing to the women of this parliament or perhaps of this country, I think it should be really clearly stated that the gender debate is a debate regarding our constitution. Madam Speaker, as a parliament, I know that we pay subscriptions to the IPU, and therefore we are really full members. It is an important benchmarking opportunity. Madam Speaker, there was debate earlier on about what we are going to be discussing in Mombasa with regards to the presidential system of government and the role of parliament within a presidential system such as ours. Madam Speaker, I think we need to have this debate candidly. And even when we go to forums such as the IPU, we need to look at, does our system really fit with us? Because in our current parliament, a member of parliament is elected as an agent of development, not so much of a legislator per se. When your people elect you, they expect that you're going to be taking to them roads, you're going to be taking to them water, you're going to be taking to them all aspects of development. Does this presidential system really work, where cabinet secretaries are out there, everybody is out there, your people expect you to take development to them, you have no direct say, you have to go and knock in offices around town. So, Madam Speaker, I think some of these discussions, even as we benchmark on the global stage, we need to look at what really suits us, what really works for us. Madam Speaker, I'm very attracted to part of the discussions at the IPU regarding parliamentary outreach, Madam Speaker. It says that parliamentary outreach is actually coming to the fore. Madam Speaker, it is important to note that however much we speak in this parliament, if the things we speak do not connect to the people we represent out there, then it becomes stories that we are telling. And Madam Speaker, this part of this report that speaks about parliamentary outreach, which while we were at the Parliamentary Service Commission in the last parliament, we introduced parliamentary outreach for this parliament, days when members of the public can actually walk into this chamber and know what this chamber does, and days when members of parliament can actually go out there and tell the public what we actually do. The report says, parliaments functioning optimally are highly accessible national centers where the issues of national and often individual significance for citizens, irrespective of sex, ethnic background, social status, or political belief may be debated and resolved. This is unlikely to be possible in the absence of substantial, vigorous, parliament-driven outreach programs. Madam Speaker, it's a challenge to us as a parliament to take our work out there, to make the publics understand what exactly our role is, vis-a-vis what they think it is. Madam Speaker, because you know we moved from a parliamentary system to a presidential system. Madam Speaker, our constituents, as I said earlier, still believe we must do all those development programs that we've spoken about. Yet, the Constitution, even when you have CDF, somebody goes to court and says, this is unconstitutional because a member of parliament is supposed to legislate, represent, and oversight and have nothing to do with execution of programs. These outreach programs, Madam Speaker, will bridge the gap between what our constituents understand us to do and what we actually constitutionally are supposed to do, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, having said those many things, I'd just like to thank those who represented us in the last IPU engagements and to urge that we continue to bring these reports to the floor of the House, but not just reports. Even our agenda to the IPU should make its way to the floor of this House, perhaps by way of motions, so that we debate them. We agree that this is what we want our representatives to go and take to the IPU and our other global engagement fora, so that when they come back with feedback, we are engaged and we are aware as to what we are doing out there. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support.
Honorable members, I don't see any other interests or requests for contribution on this particular one. Therefore, I will call upon the mover to reply. Honorable Wamunyinyi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to reply on behalf of the mover. Madam Speaker, first let me say that I have had the benefit to be one of the representatives of our parliament to the IPU in the past. And I do, of course, thank the leadership of Parliament for having accorded me that chance to be part of the representation of the country in the past. Madam Speaker, I would like to thank members for the contributions towards this report. This is one of the many important reports that need to be considered and adopted by Parliament. They give members an opportunity to look at what colleagues have had to experience when they participate in international forums, such as the Inter-parliamentary Union, rather. Madam Speaker, I would like to express this very clearly. I want to stress this point of House leadership support to these forums. Our country, and particularly our Parliament, Madam Speaker, has been represented adequately at the Inter-parliamentary Union. It's been represented adequately even at the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, at the ACPEU, at the African Caribbean Parliamentary European Union grouping. If it were not for the support of the House leadership, we would not have successfully participated in this international forum, Madam Speaker. I want to encourage that the Speaker and yourselves in leadership at Parliament continue to support this participation. It gives us also a chance to be part of the world community. The Inter-parliamentary Union is such an important session that brings together members of about 135 states represented at the Union. The main agenda, Madam Speaker, usually is peace and cooperation, that members are expected to come together to ensure that the peoples of the world live in peace, they cooperate with each other to strengthen democracy and to help, the underprivileged people. Madam Speaker, when the Union is in session, it works through committees, like our session here, like our Parliament working.
The session was preceded by meetings of the 3 standing committees and the plenary of the 48th session of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific Parliamentary Assembly between 13th and 16th December 2017. The sessions and meetings were a follow-up to the 47th session of the ACP Parliamentary Assembly and the intersessional meetings of the ACP-EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly that were held on 9 to 12 October 2018 in Brussels, Belgium. Various resolutions, Madam Speaker, on matters affecting the member states were adopted. As an introduction, Madam Speaker, and for the information of members, I wish to explain the genesis of this organization. The ACP-EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly is an assembly comprising members of the European Parliament representing 27 EU states and the elected representative of 78 African, Caribbean, Pacific states or ACP countries that have signed the Cotonou Partnership Agreement. The agreement, signed between developing countries and the EU in the year 2000 and supposed to run for a period of 20 years, ending in 2020. It is the only institution of its kind in the world and is governed by common democratic rules. A substantial part of the work of the Joint Parliamentary Assembly is directed towards promoting human rights, democracy, and the common values of humanity, and this has produced joint commitments undertaken within the framework of the UN conferences. The representative of the 78 ACP states meet their European parliamentary counterparts drawn from the 27 member states of the EU in a plenary session for 1 week, twice in a year, bringing together more than 320 members of parliament. The Joint Parliamentary Assembly meets alternatively in an ACP country and an EU country. 2 co-presidents are elected by the Assembly to direct their work. 24 vice presidents, 12 European and 12 ACP, are also elected by the Assembly, who constitute the Bureau of the Joint Parliamentary Assembly together with the 2 co-presidents. The Bureau meets several times in a year in order to ensure the continuity of the work of the JPA and to prepare new initiatives aimed notably at reinforcing and improving cooperation. It also considers topical political questions and adopts positions on all human rights cases. Honorable Speaker, the Assembly operates through 3 standing committees which have been established to draw up substantive proposals and are then voted on by the Joint Parliamentary Assembly. These committees, which began their work in March 2003, are A, the Committee on Political Affairs, B, the Committee on Economic Development, Finance and Trade, and 3, the Committee on Social Affairs and Environment. Kenya has currently transitioned from chairing the Committee on Economic Development, Finance and Trade to membership of the Committee on Political Affairs. Honorable Speaker, during the ACP-EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly held in October and December 2017, the Kenya delegation was represented by the following members: the Honorable Wangari Mwaniki, who is myself, the Honorable Patrick Mariro, Senator Professor Margaret Kamar, the Honorable Dr. Lillian Gogo, the Honorable Connelly Sarem, and the Honorable Atanas Wafula Wamunyinyi. It is worth noting, Madam Speaker, that the Kenya delegation was also joined by Ambassador Johnson Weru from the Kenya mission to Belgium, Luxembourg, and the EU in Brussels, whose advice and guidance were of great benefit to the delegation. The Kenya delegation participated actively in all the deliberations and issued statements with regard to topics that were under discussion, among others, Kenya providing and giving a statement on the political situation in the country, considering that these meetings happened soon after the general elections, assuring the delegates that there was peace despite the ongoing political differences. Honorable Speaker, some of the reports and subjects covered in the meetings of the 3 standing committees were on the following topical issues: the challenges in the field of security development, nexus in ACP and EU policies, the blue economy, opportunities and challenges for ACP states, and number 3, improving the access to basic health systems, notably to medicines in the fight against infectious diseases. The reports were thereafter discussed in the Joint Parliamentary Assembly, where they were adopted and resolutions made. There was also a women's forum, 2 external workshops, and a youth conference with Haitian students conducted before the main plenary sessions. Honorable Speaker, the JPA deliberated on various matters of concerns to the member states and also exercised scrutiny over the European Commission, the ACP and the EU councils, respectively, through a question and answer debate. Further deliberations were conducted on a variety of topics, namely the role of the natural resources in promoting sustainable development, demographic growth, sustainable tourism, enhancing resilience to climate change and natural disasters, among others, in addition to discussions with Commissioner Nivan Maimika, member of the European Commission, with responsibility for international cooperation and development. The Commissioner focused his statement on the future of the Cotonou Agreement, which would be coming to an end in the year 2020, citing the need to adapt to the changing environment and to emergence of global challenges such as climate change and migration. Other debates also included urgent motions on ongoing situation in Mauritania, Libya, and Zimbabwe. Honorable Speaker, before I conclude, there are 2 things I wish to highlight from the reports that demonstrates the importance of this organization in widening civic space, strengthening democracy, and supporting equitable and sustainable development. The first is the Economic Partnership Agreement, popularly known as the EPAS, which had their inception in the year 2002 between the EU and group of countries that together make up the ACP group of states, where they have been negotiating free trade economic partnership agreements. The overall objective of the EPA are to ensure sustainable development of the ACP countries, their smooth and gradual integration into the global economy, and eradication of poverty. Specifically, EPAs aim at promoting sustainable growth, increasing the production and supply capacity, fostering the structural transformation and diversification of ACP economies, and providing support for regional integration by being tailor-made to suit specific regional circumstances. Honorable Madam Speaker, the EPA was to be signed and ratified by each of the EAC, the East African Community and the EU partner states, to enter into force. In general, Kenya and the EAC are keen to conclude the EPA agreement that addresses the concerns of the region, brings industrial and general development, and lead to poverty eradication. The agreement should also not lead to displacement of Kenyan products in the EAC market by the EU products. At present, only Kenya and Rwanda have concluded the ratification process, awaiting the other East African community states to finalize on the EAC EPA. In fact, the ratification process was conducted by the 11th Parliament in September 2016. For the time being, Kenya continues to enjoy the quota-free, duty-free access to the EU market following interventions by previous Kenyan delegations, ministry officials, civil society, and the business community. Honorable Madam Speaker, the second thing is the European Development Fund, or EDF. EDF is the main instrument for providing community aid for development cooperation by the EU to ACP member states. This is divided into grants for national and regional educative programs, intra-ACP and interregional cooperation. This investment facility is managed by the European Investment Bank, and the European Investment Bank's loans should be used to promote the public sector in ACP states. The current 11th ADF is scheduled to run from the year 2014 to 2020 with a budget of euros 1.5 billion set aside for this particular period. Members should therefore appraise themselves on projects or programs in their areas which may qualify for funding and consult the National Treasury on how it can be accessed. Honorable Speaker, the delegation is grateful to the speakers of the two houses for allowing them to attend the sessions, for facilitating travel and accommodation, and providing logistical and technical support in liaison with the offices of the clerks of the two houses. Mr. Speaker, it's now my place and duty, on behalf of the delegation, to present and commend this report to the House for noting. I beg to move, and I request the Honorable Wafula Wamunyinyi to second. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The seconder, Honorable Wamunyinyi.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to second this report that is before the House. The mover, Madam Speaker, has been very elaborate, explained what the SCPU is all about, and I think I'll not take time repeating what she said. But I want to emphasize one point which she did mention about the Cotonou Agreement hereof. But this notwithstanding, there are also important issues related to also strengthening the aspect of protection of the people, more particularly the initiatives by the joint union of the assembly, the grouping of members, strictly, to promote regional and political commercial cooperation, to ensure that refugees are people who are not able, not because they like, but have moved out of their countries, they are gone elsewhere to find safety, to get help, and the UN is very clear on this. We are signatories to the UN and have been home to many refugees, I understand. But it is stressed that countries must also ensure that refugees are protected in accordance with the provisions of the UN. It was also clear that drawing up of rural development programs and micro projects tailored to the needs of specific communities is considered. This, you can see, we work with the European Union and, of course, with the fund to support many countries from the European Union. The issue of environment, Madam Speaker, integration of environment policy.
Food emergency situations. So I think this is a good idea, Madam Speaker. And I'm also particularly looking at aspects that are looked at internationally, especially economic matters. I want to look at the blue economy. We are having issues with youth employment and unemployment, and a lot of emphasis and debate has been put on the blue economy. And if as a country we look at this positively and come back and give such reports and act on these reports and increase work and look for funds for increasing activities in our seas and in our lakes and in our rivers, and also take our environment seriously, I think it is going to be a good thing, especially for creating employment for our young people and women who work very hard. So it is a good thing the report has been tabled so that members are made aware that it is not just taking trips abroad and coming back, but when members go outside there, they do represent the country very well, and they come up with very substantive reports. Allow me at this juncture to take mention of two senior members of this noble house. I want to mention Honorable Musikari Kombo, and I also want to mention Honorable, who is a current governor of Bomet, Dr. Joyce Laboso, who have co-chaired activities in ACP EU. I'm bringing to your attention, Madam Chair, a proposal that was made to have these people join the group of eminent persons from ACP EU countries and also European Union. And if we could have a system that could recognize the contribution of members of parliament when they go there, and if I look at the work that these members did, even to rise to the level of being co-chairs, it is a good thing. And we must come back to our country and recognize the effort these members made to reach the highest echelon of leadership in ACP EU. So I would request and urge that whoever takes up the office of the ambassador in Brussels, Luxembourg, and the European Union to really take up this matter seriously and follow it up and substantively bring it for debate so that we have these members co-joined as members who belong to the group of eminent persons from Africa, Caribbean, and the European Union. It would be a good thing for Kenya. On political matters, ACP EU is a good forum because, of course, occasionally we have had as a country to go through fire and brimstone. But if it is not for ACPU, then a lot of lies would be peddled outside there about Kenya. For all I care, when I am outside Kenya, I am Kenyan. Madam Speaker, when I go into any plane system to go and represent Kenya, I am Kenyan. And when I go there, I say the truth about Kenya. And when it was so hot and fiery, I had to stand up, and I would not want to care what somebody would think about me on this. I said, Kenya hakuna matata. What am I saying here, Madam Speaker? That this is a very good forum to put the other countries on the true state of what is happening in Kenya. It puts up a true picture, because when one wants to put and paint Kenya as a failed state, then this is a very good program. It is a very good avenue. It is a good platform that can be used by people who are representing in this country to go and say that we are not banning, that Kenya is not a failed state, that Kenya is a state like any other state and is stable and is able to manage its affairs. With those very many remarks, I am moving this to say that it is a good report. Thank you so much, Honorable Ruth, for bringing it to the House. Madam Speaker, thank you for the time, and thank you so much. Thank you.
It's a program which is adding value to our economy, and it's a program that all of us of goodwill to this country needs to support. And that's why I'm appreciating the effort of Madam, the move of the motion, and acknowledging the benefits therein to Kenya on having this agreement in place. Madam Speaker, it's important to mention that the program enhances promotion of trade. Without this, we'll be paying a lot of taxes today. As a country, our product will be very unattractive to the foreigners. They will not be keen to buy from Kenya because they can afford to buy the same product from the neighboring countries at a cheaper cost. Madam Speaker, we all appreciate that Kenya is ranked not as a poor country, and therefore it attracts a lot of taxes when we are selling our products. For example, when we are going to sell our flowers out there, we are going to pay a lot of tax, and that will make our product very unattractive. If you look at the number of people who are employed in flower farms, there are so many, Madam Speaker, that the last thing we want to imagine of as a country is that we are going to pay taxes, and that would make those investors to move away to a cheaper country where they will be able to pay less and make more money for themselves and for the investors. Madam, somewhat, and reduce the number of graduates who are unemployed and staying at home. Madam Speaker, this program also enhances the stability in the country, the peace. Because if we get into these procs and we are all talking of the same language, if you go to Tanzania, they're talking of the same language. We go to Rwanda, we are speaking the same language. You go to Uganda, we are speaking the same language. Even our political stability in the region is enhanced. So we have to work hard and ensure that the people of expertise, people who have understanding of this program, are given the opportunity to go and propagate our agenda and ensure that we get the services. And this is why I'm so humbled that our own Honorable Wangari, she's able to understand this and she's given a shot, but we need to support to ensure that we get as many people who will be able to do this at a higher level. Madam Speaker, enhancing the relationship amongst trading partners is a good thing for any country. If you look at today in Kenya, the counties which have made progress are those which have merged. You know, we can cascade this program into local level and then get the benefit out of it. Those counties which are merged and now they have common interest, they've been able to attract foreign investors directly to the county level. This program can be cascaded even to the constituency level, where we are going to partner with the neighbors, we are going to partner with the constituents where we have similar challenges, and ensure that we exploit the benefits therein. The constituency that I come from, Kisii, Nyaribarichache constituency, where I've just come from, Madam Speaker, a little while ago, we're having a lot of challenges, which should not be a challenge actually. But if we can get support, like this program of ACP EU has a program of financing some of these projects. We have a lot of rain in Kisii. Today, the biggest challenge I have in Kisii is the poor road network because of the heavy rains. It's raining heavily. I just left it there a little while ago. But we don't have a system of harvesting this water. If we had a system of harvesting the water that is going down today, we would be able to use it for a future date because it comes, it rains, and that water disappears. But if we can tap into this money, which is about at $1 billion US, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money which can make a difference. If we get a fraction of that money and that money is invested into our economy by way of even creating enabling investors, water harvesters, that will create employment opportunity for our youths. Then they will be able to start the car wash, especially in the Kisii town where I come from. We'll be able to start the car wash business for the youth because not all of us are going to be sitting in the office. Not all of us can create employment opportunities for people to sit in the office. Mheshimiwa has spoken of the blue economy. We all have an opportunity to enhance on that. If we can have this support from the European Union and we get this money which comes in a very soft terms, we'll use that money to start even fish farming for our youths. We'll use that money to start small-scale businesses for our youth. We'll use that money to start many economic opportunities for our youth. The day we stop thinking of employment as the only source of money, Madam Speaker, that will be the beginning of elimination of the challenges that we are having today. It hurts me to see people who have gone to school, and these people who have gone to school, all they can think of is to get employment. If you are not a teacher, if you are not in the forces, therefore you are not employed. But the truth is, Madam Speaker, people who have money in this country are people who are self-employed. And we have to create an enabling environment on which people will be able to get these resources, the seed capital, to start their own businesses so that they can grow this economy. That way, we'll be able to collect more money as carry, which money, of course, will be used to ensure that we have good services in the country, which money will be used to enhance the security in the country, Madam Speaker, which money will be used to increase the number of teachers in the country, Madam Speaker. As a former teacher, I will tell you, we have the ratio of student to teacher in Kenya is alarming, it's scary. We need to improve the quality of education, and we cannot do that. I know we all desire to have as many teachers as the good practice requires of us. But having more teachers, it requires money from us. It requires money from the exchequer. And all of us are looking at one source of money. But if we can increase the people who are contributing to that basket, then, Madam Speaker, all of us will have something to smile about. I'm looking forward to a day when all of us are going to say, what is it that I can can do to make Kenya a better place, and not keep on asking what is it that Kenya has done for me. Because all of us have a chance to contribute and make Kenya a better place, make Kenya more appealing, make Kenya a peaceful country, and make Kenya a good place to live in and do business. Madam Speaker, another scary issue which I'm sure this money from the European Union can help is the environment issue. There are parts of this country, Madam Speaker, where we are hurting. And we are hurting because we have not done things the way we should be doing them professionally. Madam Speaker, a region like in Kisii, where I come from, we have water in plenty. But we have done things which are going to hurt this economy. We are going to hurt this environment of ours, which has been given to us by God. We have planted trees, which trees are using a lot of water and making some streams to dry up. And if we can get this money from European Union, that money can be used in civic education, for lack of a better word. That money can be used to give us seedlings of different seeds of different trees to replace the blue gum, which is wasting our, our soil resource. And that is another way we can gain from this European Union program, which is done in prox. And I'm sure once we enhance it, once we practice it, we'll be able to use it for the good of this country. And therefore, all of us will be happy to live in this country, and we will have something to be very proud of. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, once again, I want to take this opportunity to thank Honorable Wangari, MP Kigumo, for such a powerful presentation, and we are hoping that we all support her to ensure that this grows to the next level for the good of this country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Nyasuna.
Madam Speaker, I intended to contribute to the next adjournment motion.
Very well. I thought you had withdrawn. What about Honorable Tonui Kiprotich? You are all anticipating. Could we have the seconder? Sorry, let's have the mover to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to reply. Madam Speaker, the World Bank in its 8th country report on Kenya said that the dream to grow the economy in double digits will continue to be elusive until we promote international trade, exports. I want to thank the Jubilee administration because in the 4-point Jubilee agenda that the President has said we strengthen, there is the strong push to have manufacturing that is export-led. But once we do the manufacturing, once we grow our agriculture, we must secure our markets. So it's one thing to produce something or to manufacture, is the other thing to get a market for those produce. So the partnership between the EU and the ACPC countries, and particularly Kenya, seeks to secure our continued partnership so that our goods continue to get access to the European market, quota-free and duty-free. Without the EPA, they will be subjected to taxation, and as my colleague, the Honorable Richard Tongi has said of Nyaribari Chache, what will happen is most of those businesses will close and our youth will lack jobs. Madam Speaker, we've talked about the European Development Fund. It's 31 million euros. We need to approach the Treasury. Members of Parliament need to go to the External Resource Department of the Treasury to be able to know what programs perhaps the EDF can accommodate in their respective constituencies. We talked about the political issues relating to the EU.
Solve this problem, and it may solve it once and for all. It is the right of all communities, if we have to deliver equitable education, rights of all communities, including ethnic minorities, to have their own teachers. And therefore, my proposal here is that the Teacher Service Commission should immediately recruit from the pool of school leavers, qualified and capable citizens from these communities and deploy them to the classrooms, give them registration certificates, and proceed to give them in-service courses during the months of April, August, and December. And in doing so, this menace of exodus of teachers and lack of teachers shall be solved once and for all. We appreciate the ethnic diversity and environmental diversity of this nation. And if we have to deliver education in the most difficult and hard to reach areas in this nation, then we must give opportunities to those communities to have their own teachers. And I'm also proposing that Teacher Service Commission must continue to sustain an acceptable staffing norm in this nation so that in case of calamities, of insecurity, and of whatever nature, our communities that shall be affected will continue to have teachers at all times. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, sorry. And in doing so, there might be a challenge in these areas because of diversity, the obvious challenges that we have in terms of geographical and other challenges, that it may not be possible to have school leavers who meet the minimum cutoff set by the Ministry of Education for school leavers to train and qualify as teachers. We know too well that affirmative action for equity and for rights of people is in the Constitution. I recommend that in these particular regions where we cannot mob up, or the Teacher Service Commission cannot mob up enough teachers to take up these positions, then it should lower the cutoff to an acceptable grade, either C- or D+, so that we can be able to get enough teachers to teach in these particular areas. Mr. Speaker, my motion is very straightforward, and I believe this is going to be a win-win situation that both the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Service Commission can move without speed and immediately implement so that all children across the Republic of Kenya can access teachers. Further, the Teacher Service Commission must ensure that the student-teacher-pupil ratio is attained at all times in all our public schools so that we can deliver quality education to all our children. I was given 5 minutes, and I think
The Honorable Association, you actually, as a mover, you have 10 minutes. So you still have a balance of about 4 minutes. If you are up to using them, it's up to you.
Mr. Speaker, having moved and having outlined the actual situation in this country, I believe it is in the interest of this nation to accept this extraordinary step and allow the Teacher Service Commission to develop an acceptable framework. And in doing so, this group of teachers who have declared that they're unable to work in these particular places can be released and be deployed for utilization in other parts of the Republic of Kenya. We also urge the Teacher Service Commission to adopt an acceptable staffing norm so that we can ensure that the teaching service in this country is stable at all times, despite obvious challenges that we face, particularly insecurity in this country. Mr. Speaker, the traditional approach to teaching is that teachers are allowed to teach close to their communities. Take, for example, the pastoral communities who are ever moving, the mobile schools that we have. It is not possible to employ a teacher, say, for example, from Migori or from Kisii, and deploy to teach children in pastoral communities that are permanently on the move through mobile schools. It is always advisable that that mobile community must be targeted so that we are able to train members of that community who understand the culture of that community, and so that at all times these teachers are permanently present. And even in extreme cases, because we have seen globally human migration of refugees in Syria to Europe, populations are moving with their children and with their teachers. We've seen the same in Nigeria, a whole state of Pono, state in Nigeria, which has been affected by similar circumstances. And it is always good when a community has their own teachers. In case of mobility, they will be having their own teachers. And therefore, beyond this, the Teacher Service Commission and the ministry must map out and look at ethnic minorities of this country. It's their right. The Dorobos, the Elmolos, and all other groups, so that they can also have their own trained and qualified teachers working within them. There has been a policy that, of course, has caused a lot of cheaters, even within the teaching service. And there's a starving norm that we've seen in the past during post-election clashes, migration and movement of teachers. We want to urge also through this motion that the Teacher Service Commission adopts and ensures that teachers are permanently stable. The concept of delocalization may not work, but it may aggravate the stability of teachers further. But on this one, Mr. Speaker, I urge this House to support this motion as an affirmative action so that all our children can have access to not only quality but equitable education delivered by the presence of qualified teachers at all times, despite the circumstances, whether there is peace or there is no peace. Thank you.
Very well. Members, you know that this one does not have a...
Mr. Speaker, this motion, I've got a seconder, the Honorable Member of Parliament for
It does not have a seconder. According to our rules, it does not have a seconder. And we'll, the proper way to go about this is to give the first opportunity to the chair of the relevant committee, which is the Education Committee, so that we can have organized discussion on this. I will therefore give this opportunity to the Honorable Meli, Member for Tinderet and the Chair for Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I arise to contribute to this motion. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I oppose the motion in the sense that this is actually could have been a very good motion. But the essence of bringing in-service teachers and trained teachers to serve, and at the same time, we need quality education in this country. Mr. Speaker, one of the goals of education in this country is national unity. It is to foster unity among Kenyans. And the essence of this can only be attained by ensuring that we live together as communities, despite the difficulties that we go through in this nation. As a people, Mr. Speaker, every region has its own challenges and difficulties. And I would say that the motion targets to actually address a challenge that is facing a specific part of this nation. I would say that for that particular issue to be tackled very well, with a long-term solution, I want to ask the government to really intervene with a lot of firmness to ensure that there is law and order in that part of, northern part of Kenya, and even other parts of this country, including Mount Elgon, Marakwet, Baringo, and all these other areas. Mr. Speaker, Kenya National Union of Teachers stands for quality education. it stands to ensure that we have quality teachers. If today we are going to recruit teachers only and trained teachers for these particular regions, we are actually doing a disservice to the children of our nation. Two, I will also comment that at least a few days ago, the CS internal security was in the northern part of the country, and even the insecure parts of the northern rift. And at least there is some semblance of law and order that has come into place. What I'll urge the leaders from those particular areas is they need to also come in place, and even all of us, to ensure that we talk to our people, because security begins with us. We should condemn the individuals attacking the teachers. We should condemn the people who are actually trying to ridicule our teachers in classes. It is incumbent upon every one of us in this house and outside this house, as leaders of all cadres, so that we are not going to make laws that are only meant to actually address something for a particular. We are going to do a disservice to northern Kenya, areas in the North Rift like Turkana, Marakwet, Lamu, Mount Elgon. What we need to do is to actually employ the trained teachers from those particular regions. If this is to employ the teachers from those particular regions and give them, I would say, an affirmative action, it would be okay. But the moment we are going to...
Honorable members, the Honorable Meli, as the chair, I'll allow you an extra minute so that you can wind down. But I would just like members to note that on this particular motion, this kind of motion, members usually have only 5 minutes, and this kind of motion is usually not seconded. So every other contributor will have 5 minutes. The Honorable Meli, just because you're the chairman, I'll give you a minute to wind down.
Thank you.
Can you press the intervention so that we can find you? Yes. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to conclude by saying this, that if this House passes this motion, Mr. Speaker, it is as a motion that is going to segregate particular parts of this country. It is a motion that is not going to address the real issues facing the nation, that is security. We will have actually not treated what is affecting us, what is ailing us. It isn't about untrained teachers. It is about the security of this country. So I would want to urge the House that we make sure that the regions concerned, and I do remember that regions as far as Mandera up to coast, Tana River, have insecurity issues. And wherever we are going to address security issues in this manner, we will actually abate crime and terrorism in our country. So I would want to say that as we move forward, and we need students to pass exams, we need quality teachers. We need students, we need quality education so as to we meet Vision 2030. So I would say, Mr. Speaker, that let trained teachers be recruited, let security be provided in those regions, and we don't segregate other Kenyans by moving them across. Let us uphold national unity and uphold the stability of this nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Wanyonyi Wetangula, member for Westlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to add my voice, Mr. Speaker. While I agree with the sentiments of the Chair of Education, but sometimes we need also extreme measures to address some of these issues. Mr. Speaker, I think sometimes the government does not take security matters seriously, because We have seen teachers who are being flushed out from those areas. We have seen religious profiling, whereby people who don't belong to a particular religious segment are flushed out and sometimes even executed. And these are issues that we need to address, Mr. Speaker, the issues of security. What is happening in Mount Elgon, what is happening in Northeastern, what is happening in other parts of this country, Mr. Speaker, it puts the lives of Kenyans in danger. And for our children to get quality education, there must be security. There must be security, not just addressing issues casually, Mr. Speaker. The TSC and the government as a whole, Mr. Speaker, they must look at the issues of how teachers are going to be, how they are going to provide quality education to every corner of this country. And we have seen, not just in those areas, even within Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, we are having serious issues of shortage of teachers, and we have so many teachers who have been trained, who are waiting outside there. And the TSA has got a very funny system of employing teachers. We find that they're looking at teachers who are trained 6 or 7 years back. Those are the people they are looking to recruit now. Yet there are teachers who are coming out of colleges almost every year. So we need to look at how do we improve the ratio of pupil to teacher in our schools, but we must also address the issue of security to enable children go to school, to enable teachers who are recruited to go and teach in other parts of the country to be safe and secure. Because you find in those areas, even raising a form for leave as Honorable Sosioni proposes, it's very difficult, Mr. Speaker. I was once a chair of education when I was working at City Hall. Some of these areas, Mr. Speaker, when you look, even getting a D or even a form for leave, it's very difficult. So you find they have to look for teachers from other regions. And this is why we must have the laws, our law address the issue of security to all areas of this country so that we provide our teachers who are teaching in other, who have moved to go and teach in other areas or who are posted by TSE, that they are working in a safe environment and that our children, whether in Mandera, Mount Elgon or wherever, they are getting the same education as a child in other region that is, Mr. Speaker, is safe and secure. So, Mr. Speaker, I support the proposal by Honorable Sossion, and the TSC, the government, must come up with interventions that will make sure that our children and other Kenyans are living in a safe environment and there's education for everyone because it is a fundamental right. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
The Honorable Tonui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also make my comments on this motion of adjournment. From the onset, I want to declare that I do support the adjournment motion by Honorable Sossion. I think it's timely, and we need to act on it. I know the Chair, Education Committee, has commented that there is insecurity all over, in Mount Elgon, in Kerio Valley, and elsewhere. But I thought the recent killings of teachers, which happened elsewhere in the former Northeastern, was quite unique. The insecurity in the Kerio Valley and elsewhere normally doesn't target teachers, but this other one was targeting teachers, where we have a situation of teachers simply being killed, possibly because they are not locals, they come from far. That is a unique situation, which I thought what Honorable Sossion was addressing in a way. That's why he was proposing that since education is critical for everyone, we need to have some other intervention so that those people can get their education. At the same time, security of the teachers is guaranteed. That will be money circulating in the local economy, in the rural areas, and that will ensure that the economy even grows at a better read. There are those teachers who are currently camping in the Teachers Commission. I think it was so unfortunate. It was heartless for the police to tear gas them. The people who are running away for their dear lives. And yet they come to look for security. They come to look for transfer, and then you are tear gassing them. I think that is quite painful, is quite unreasonable, and we should never, never expose our teachers to such situation. Community live.
Honorable members, you will remember that you only have 5 minutes at it. We'll give this opportunity to the Honorable Wanga. You don't need to carry your hand up. Everybody is interested in this. We will give everybody an opportunity. I believe the Honorable Wanga was top of the list, actually, but my colleague had called you out on the previous one. That's why you lost your priority.
Yes.
So have a go at it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to support this motion by the Honorable Sosion. And I'd like to state that, as Honorable Sosion mentioned as he moved his motion, that education is the only equalizer. And our children across this country, from every corner, are entitled, as a matter of right, to quality education. And therefore, we would like our children, both up north, down south, on the lakeside, to have access to quality education. Mr. Speaker, however, quality is a factor of many contributors. In Wajir was man and his wife. They hail from Kamuga, Kojwach Ward in Homa Bay County, Kabondo Kasipul constituency. On Sunday, I had an opportunity to visit with that family. A mother left with no child, no breadwinner. The girl had only married this gentleman in January. He took his wife. Actually, this lady happens to also come from my home back in Kano. He is actually almost my sister. He took his wife and went in search for bread, daily bread. But what has come back to us is 2 corpses. This is the reality. These are not just statistics. These are people. These are people who have families. These are people who must be looked at as well, even as we look at this search for education. And the reason I support this motion is because it provides a solution to the problem that we are facing. Because we want our children to get quality education, and the chair of education has said that we want teachers there who are trained to provide education. But if I am a trained teacher and I am in an environment in which I feel insecure, I can tell you that I will not be able to deliver to the point that I am supposed to. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, since I think the primary solution, as was said by the Honorable Chair of Education, is to deploy as many local teachers as possible. And we all want to be one big united nation, and we are united. But we cannot bury our heads in the sand to the fact that some of these terrorists actually are hell-bent on dividing us along religious lines. And therefore, it is more likely for you to actually get targeted if you are of a different religion from a certain religion. And therefore, we cannot bury our heads in the sand to that fact. And so the primary solution is, well, let us deploy as many local teachers as possible to the border areas where there are insecurity problems. If we run out of local teachers, I think this is where the solution that Honorable Sosion is proposing comes in. Can we look at who else we can deploy? And untrained teachers and teachers who are trained in service is not a new phenomenon. There are many of us who passed through the hands of teachers. We were not even in any security risk, but we passed through hands of untrained teachers because of teacher shortage. The school could simply not marshal enough teachers to train all of us, to cover everybody. And so the school hired PTA teachers and so on, and trained, and they were trained in service, and we are here, today, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to speak too much. I want to give an opportunity to the others, but I just wanted to add my voice as a representative of people who are actually murdered, as a representative of families that are actually agonizing and suffering. I wanted to add my voice to the fact that these murders are not mere statistics, they are real human beings, and if a solution can be found, it must be found. If the security of our teachers really is not guaranteed, then we cannot bury our heads in the sand and say that they have to be where.
Members, I propose that we shall move like this. I see a lot of interest on this. I'm proposing that we shall just run down the list the way it is. I will only give priority to the Honorable Chris Wamalwa because of the rules, our standing orders, because it's in leadership. And then after that, I am going to follow the list the way it is here, because I think we all have equal interest in this. So the Honorable Chris, you have a chance. Then after that, we are going to follow the list. You don't need to come here to look for your name. It is here. I will just follow the list the way it is. What is out of order, the Honorable Ibrahim? Is it the Honorable Ibrahim?
Point of order is that, Mr. Speaker, yes, there are some members who are seated here whose constituencies is directly affected by the mass transfer of teachers, and hence the need to give them consideration. We are discussing issues that is affecting them directly, and hence the need to consider their positions. They have been here since this afternoon and have been pushing for this issue. Kindly consider.
Mr. Speaker, we had to go extra miles to see that we send our loved ones back home to bury, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's painful. Mr. Speaker, under Article 29 of the Constitution, it is very clear that every person has a right to security, including that teacher who is teaching in Wajir, including that learner who is there in Wajir. It is painful. You've gone there. I know once you work with the TSC, you are told you can go work anywhere. But you go there to provide the services, and you are being murdered, Mr. Speaker. The TSC has that delocalization policy, which I support, that in such areas where the teachers are not being given security, they should do away with the delocalization policy so that they prioritize the people from that particular community to be given priority to teach in that particular area, Mr. Speaker. It's not the first time we are losing our teachers. In my constituency, I come from a constituency, majority of the professionals are teachers. And we've been exporting teachers in other counties, Mr. Speaker. I come here to mourn as I speak on this matter. So TSC should move with speed. A situation whereby you have an extraordinary case, you need some extraordinary measures to solve that situation. It might not be forever, Mr. Speaker. And the proposal by Honorable Sosioni of saying we get untrained teachers, Mr. Speaker, it has been benchmarked elsewhere. It has worked, Mr. Speaker. Some of us, we are where we are today because we were trained, we were taught by the untrained teachers. And if such an opportunity is there, they should be able to move with speed, Mr. Speaker, so that those particular children, wherever they are not disadvantaged. Because the KCP they are going to do, the KCSE they are going to do, it is the same countrywide. They are not going to set that these are specific exams for this particular area because he had shortage of the teachers. And that's why the government must move with speed to have some measures, Mr. Speaker, that can be able to address the issue for short term as you look for the long term. Mr. Speaker, we know very well the long-term solution here is about the issue of security. The security systems in this country, particularly when it comes to those particular regions, and the highest time the local leadership must come together, Mr. Speaker. Last time the local leadership came together.
The Honorable Chris Wamalwa, your time has lapsed. The Honorable Disalan, you are on top of the list before you raise your point of order. I think it will just be fair to give you that opportunity. I will run through the list. You are on top of the list. Have a go at it.
Is it Absalan or Kolosh?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me add my voice also to this motion. First and foremost, let me take this opportunity to send my heartfelt condolences to those teachers who passed away as a result of this attack. Secondly, let me take this opportunity to condemn the mass transfer of teachers from Northeastern region. I am saying this, Mr. Speaker, because it is good to have contextual understanding of the area and good contextual understanding of the incident for one to make correct contribution and right decision on this issue. Mr. Speaker, unlike other parts of Northeastern region, for one, I want to confirm that I have worked in Northern region and was involved in this kind of incidences. Mr. Speaker, this isolated incident happened at a place of close proximity to the border, the Pora-Somalia border. Unfortunately, collective punishment has been applied to the entire Northeastern region. My constituency is 400 kilometers from Wajir town. It is of close proximity to Moyale. Mr. Speaker, 20 minutes drive to Moyale. It is 2 kilometers away from the border of Ethiopia. And yet, all teachers were moved out. One of the secondary schools in my constituency called Bunaboy Secondary School has 12 teachers. Only one teacher is a local. The other 11 teachers are non-local. All were moved out. This tells you that the management, and to be specific, the CEO Teacher Service Commission, and as well as the chair, have not involved this decision making the right relevant stakeholders, including the security sector. They have done single-handedly what they have done, and hence their action has furthered the objectives of the terror group who are out to create fear, instill fear, and ensure that that service delivery is seriously affected. Mr. Speaker, in regards to the recruitment of the untrained teacher, it is interesting. If you look at Article 237 of the Constitution, TSC have no mandate to recruit and train teachers. Why am I saying this? It says, Article 237 2A, to register trained teachers. 2B, to recruit and employ registered teachers. That means that they have no mandate to recruit and train teachers. Probably the Ministry of Education can support and recruit and train teachers to complement those who are there. But then, is there any effect on the ground that will warrant mass movement of teachers from that area? The answer is no. My brother raised very well that were the people named and shamed. Yes, they were named and shamed. We have a regional commissioner who is a local, who have excellent contextual understanding of that area. He has named them. Matiangi was on the ground. It is very important that teachers moved from that region be returned immediately. The fact is, the border area, what is happening at the border area is terrible. They can be taken to safe area within the county. There are areas that have not heard of any terror attack. Trust me, my constituents, for example, which is of close proximity to Moyale, have never heard of occurrence of terror attack, leave alone the terror itself. So the application of collective punishment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the adjournment motion by Honorable Sosian. And I want to start, Mr. Speaker, that I do indeed acknowledge and recognize the concerns raised by the Chair of Education Committee. Mr. Speaker, I am a trained teacher, and I wanted, as we talk, because I believe that one of what we would really like to do is to respond to the uncertainty and the challenges that we are facing and avoid, as indeed Honorable Sosian did indicate as he moved the motion, explaining it because it is a critical issue. It is an urgent one. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to say that when we think of the experience of teaching, there are a number of us, as has been indicated earlier by Honorable Wanga, but I want to indicate that I had a very, very distinguished experience, which led me to then become a teacher when I was in Form 4. I got a chance, indeed, to engage in what I would call, Mr. Speaker, education, which truly can be distinguished from schooling. I was hoping that as we address this, in terms of how we want to look at the solution, that we would see the recommendation of affirmative action in the context in which it normally is applied. Affirmative action is applied whenever there is a sense of exclusion or a sense of grievance that requires urgent action. And affirmative action has a timeline. And so, Mr. Speaker, what I was going to recommend, based really on my own experience, having been a very successful teacher after Form 4, and indeed after Form 6, I also did teach at Ngea Girls Secondary School. I believe that in order that we immediately seek, indeed, Mr. Speaker, to bring to closure the current situation in Kenya where we seem to have a tale of two cities, the situation where people, even as we talk about unity, do not recognize that there are diversities. And as indeed the honorable member did say earlier, that when we think nationally and think globally, if we are ever going to make true difference, we must act locally. And so, Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, what I was going to say as I support this motion is that indeed we do not have to worry about quality when we talk about untrained teachers. I think what we need to do is to be very clear that we are not making this a permanent solution, that it is an affirmative action that is indeed intended to ensure that what is enshrined in the Bill of Rights that seeks to ensure that the dignity of all individuals and communities is respected can indeed be addressed by not only ensuring that those schools have teachers, but also ensuring that the teachers who, by way of the examples we've been given, feel insecure are taken care of. And so it is my humble submission and request, Mr. Speaker, that as we deal with issues, it is useful that we do get to listen and to hear what teachers who have dealt, even in untrained positions, have to say, and then look at policies as ways by which we can provide leadership by solving problems and giving direction when it is timely and it can help our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Noor Sophia, member for Ijara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion of adjournment. Mr. Speaker, from onstart, first I want to send my condolences to the teachers who were killed. It is not fun. It is really a problem that is affecting us. And I feel very sorry, and I send message of condolence to the families who are affected. Mr. Speaker, we have a crisis, and we have educational crisis, security crisis, and this is not exceptional to Kenya. It is a global problem, and we need to address the problems and the root cause of those problems, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll give you an example of a mother who flew from Somalia because of crisis and the problems that Somalia was facing 25 years ago. She went to UK with her 3 young boys, and after 25 years, her 3 boys were killed in London town. All the 3. She was running to UK thinking that that is safe haven, and her children will be protected, they will be safe, and they will be there. But because of what is affecting the whole world, those children were not able to be saved in London after 25 years running away from Somalia, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a crisis. I'm just coming from my constituency this morning, and half of my schools have been closed down, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we condemn the call by none other than the CEO of TSC and the mover of this motion, whom I had a lot of respect when he called and said all teachers should be moved from Northeastern Province. If we say that all teachers should be moved from London, where a mother lost her 3 children because she thought that is a safe haven, it becomes a problem, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm affected myself in my constituency. I lost many people. I lost a whole police station. I lost police cars and everything. This is a security matter, Mr. Speaker. And we must, Mr. Speaker, if you send police, a whole police station with 7 policemen, can they really protect that area? Those are the issues we need to address, Mr. Speaker. I agree, affirmative action has a time frame. And that time frame is you address critical issues and critical problems that are facing that particular time. Yes, the call of affirmative action is good, but we should go beyond the affirmative action. We should ask the Kenyan government that security is in the docket of the government, and the government must protect every Kenyan wherever you are serving. Wherever you are serving, it is the responsibility. When they were bombing my police station, there were only 7 policemen in the police station. What did they do? When they had the Al-Shabaab were coming, they left the police station because they were only 7. And I concur with them. They should leave instead of them being slaughtered. They ran away. They went to the bush. Yeah? So what we are asking, Mr. Speaker, is let's address the root cause. And the root cause is let's have adequate security personnel, Mr. Speaker. We know in Bonny Forest, if we are very serious, we can remove those guys. I'm told there are not more than 50 people. We can remove them very fast with the mighty of this country. This country has got intelligent system in place, Mr. Speaker, who know and who understand the roots. By now, they must know the roots of these militia groups, Mr. Speaker.
Versus the right to quality education of our children. And we must weigh this very, very carefully. When it comes to life, even if we were to force these teachers to go back, some will choose, and some have chosen to even leave the teaching profession completely and go away. Because the threat is real. This is actually the second time it has happened. When the last parliament, we actually had a big demonstration of teachers that took months. They refused to go. So if we insist and do nothing, our children will stay there without any form of education. So this may be something that can bridge the gap. Let's look at it. But the real solution, Mr. Speaker, is looking at the issue of security in this area. We have had many motions of adjournment in the last parliament, and I can see in this parliament it is starting because of the issue of security. And people living in harmony. The issue of profiling in the areas of where there's insecurity is actually the problem. People know that you stand out and you will be killed. And we really can't say they must be there whether they like it or not. And I think there is a role of the local people can also play. First of all, I think when we are recruiting teachers, we know there is a shortage of teachers, even in other areas. And these untrained teachers will not only be there. But we must therefore put effort in recruiting more teachers, training more teachers in these areas of security. Although I know, I had this experience as Director of Medical Services when we had the same problem with nurses. And we actually recruited nurses from these areas. Within 1 year, those nurses themselves had come back to towns and left those areas. So it's a much, much bigger problem. But the local people may have to contribute this, work towards more training of teachers, work towards some harmony. You know, sometimes one wonders, these people Al-Shabaab, how can they operate in these areas with the local people not having even the faintest idea of what is going on? But I know it is possible. But I think the local people will have to do a lot more than that. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm also taking this opportunity to look at the whole area of education. There is good effort, commendable effort to transform education. But what I'm seeing, we are coming up with programs that are being implemented immediately without proper master plan. Look at the issue of free secondary education. If you looked at what the parents went through when they were told education was free, and this levy here, this levy there, the ministry said those levies should not be there. But they were there, and parents paid, because we do not have a clear monitoring system to stop them. Mr. Speaker, look at this issue of 100% transition. You have classes with 90 children. How can you one day just say that now all kids are going to secondary school to Form 1? It's commendable, that's the direction to go, but you need to sit down for a year or two and plan it. The number of classrooms, the number of teachers, that is needed. Even the issue we have now of the single identity that we are looking for. Parents who are running all over the place looking for birth certificate. You go to the people of registration of birth and they don't even have paper to issue the certificate. This is the same government. One arm is making a demand which the other arm cannot. Look at even that issue of 100%. The policy now is you can't start more new secondary schools. But how can you not start more secondary schools when you are going to do 100% transition? So I think we need a master planning. The efforts are good, the transformations are required, but planning will get us there, will deliver. Without that, it will cost more.
We shall now have the Honorable Milemba Mboko, who now represents proper special interest, also being is it the chair of Coupe? What is out of order, the Honorable Koloshe? Yes. Some of us did not leave the chairperson.
A mistake was done when the Honorable Ibrahim was to speak, and I was given.
The Honorable Koloshe, you are out of order. Your name is here on the list. I'll give you an opportunity. But you see, Mr. Speaker, you cannot argue with me. The Honorable Koloshe, you are out of order. The Honorable Milemba, kindly proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I directly support this motion, and I want to remind this House and earlier speakers that in 2015, 28 teachers died in the northeastern part of Kenya, and out of those 28 teachers, 14 were from the former Western region, and 5 of them were from Vihiga County, and 2 were from Emuhaya, where I represent, and we buried them. I want to say that for us, our cash crop are the teachers. So when we give you our coffee, who are actually teachers, and you throw into water, that cannot be acceptable. And therefore, I'd want to support this motion that we get a short-term solution to have some teachers from those particular regions teach as we wait for security to be put in those places. Honorable Speaker, the national unity talked about in this House cannot be achieved at the expense of the teachers. We cannot put the teachers as guinea pigs to get the national unity that we are yearning for. That is totally unacceptable. We have had this issue come up severally, 2015, 2016. In one of the many rulings that we had over this issue, one time the court said, and that was Judge Byram, that in the event the interest of the child comes into contradiction with the interest of the teacher, the interest of the child shall suffice. We took it. But this time, it is the interest of quality education versus the right of the teacher. The right of life to the teacher has to suffice. And therefore, it is in order for us to support this motion fully and indicate that let these areas have their locally trained teachers work in those areas for the period which we shall actually determine, after which, when security is back, we can then give you the teachers. The history of teaching in this country is very interesting. All communities have had a chance to protect the teachers who are not local. The early teachers in Central at Alliance and other places in this country were Europeans. But it was the duty of the local communities to protect those Europeans until they trained the local people to become teachers. And that is how we got the teachers we have today. The communities and the leaders of northeastern Kenya must stand up and talk to their people and tell them to protect the non-local teachers. Soon, they will be having their own teachers, and they do not have to worry about these non-local teachers per se. And therefore, we want to congratulate the Teacher Service Commission for having made. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Rono Kipkoge, member for Keyo South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also wish to express my sentiments on the matter touching on the teachers in the Northeastern. As we all know, Mr. Speaker, the teachers in this troubled Northeastern is a worrying experience. They actually desperately need their jobs. Yet work is becoming a balance between life and death. If you look at the region, it is risking lacking behind because of the issues that they face always about the teaching fraternity. Even other professionals are also getting scared about working in that region. So I support the mover of this motion and urge the government to move in very fast and recruit the fresh graduates and B1 teachers who are willing to work there. Because not necessarily from the northeastern side, because of the issues of balancing and so forth. We can give the opportunity to those who are courageous enough to work there. And if the government actually is unable to provide security in such areas, I propose that in future, teachers who are willing to be recruited in the military or the police be recruited so that we have a situation where we call teacher soldier, so that there will be no insecurity being faced by these teachers in the future. Mr. Speaker, this situation can only be solved because here is a situation where we have insecurity, year in, year out. This cannot continue forever. So it is now we are heading to a situation where we will say everybody for himself in Northeastern as a professional. You arm the professional so that they are able to give the service at peace. I support.
The Honorable Meli, Chair for Education, I hope you are recording the sentiments of the member who has just contributed. I'll give this opportunity to the Honorable Mwadime Andrew.
Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Speaker.
The Honorable Mbadi, I will give you, I recognize that you are here, you will have a go at it, but let the Honorable.
Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Speaker, kwa kunipa hii fursa. Nimechunguza kwa wenzangu wote ambao wamechangia na nimeona suluhu kwa kweli iko tu na wabunge hapa. Moja ya wapo tumetambua kwamba usalama ndio tatizo. Ndio maana huyu mbunge ambaye ameongea akanitangulia akasema yafaa kuwe mwalimu mwanajeshi. Mimi nikiongea kama mwalimu, tunafahamu ya kwamba kila mtu, haswa nikinukuu yule Mwingereza anaitwa Maslow, alisema ya kwamba Mahitaji kwanza yale madogo madogo lazima yawe sawa, ndio mahitaji haya makubwa makubwa yaje baadaye. Sasa ukimweka mwalimu katika hali ambapo usalama hamna, hapo kuna tumbo joto. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nakumbuka nilipotoka chuoni nilienda kufundisha mahali. Na hiyo mahali ilikuwa tabia na masuala mengi tu tulikuwa tunatofautiana. Baada ya muda mfupi tumbo lilianza kuwa na vidonda. Tena muda kidogo nikakuta risasi ambaye ni stray bullet kwa Kiingereza. Mheshimiwa Spika uniruhusu, ikanigonga na maisha yangu yalikuwa si sawa sawa. Na mwalimu ambaye maisha yake si sawa sawa, kufundisha ni urongo. Hapo tunadanganyana. Teacher Service Commission vizuri waangalie swala kwa undani, na tena tunafahamu kwamba hii Kenya ukabila upo. Hivi sasa ukienda kule wale ambao wako huko ambao si jamii huko, utakuta ni wale watu wadogo wadogo ndio wamesukumwa huko. Wale ambao wanafanya hizo sheria watoto wao katika mashule ya matauni na kila mahali. Ingekuwa mwanzo wao ndio wanasukuma watoto wao huko, ingekuwa ni vyema zaidi. Manake vile ninavyoongea, kuna kijana, najua huyu kijana hana baba, hala mama, anatoka kule kwangu. Tangu mwaka juzi amekuwa akilia, akisema mheshimiwa, mimi na ndugu zangu wadogo, hii kazi kidogo angalau nimepata nafundisha huko security, mimi sijazoea masuala ya mabunduki nini na nini, nataka kuja zangu huko nyumbani ama kwingine huko kule Kenya, lakini hamna. Nimejaribu, ni tatizo. Hili ni swala watu wasilichukulie hivi hivi. Angalia kwa kina kabisa wale walimu ambao wako kule. Kama mtu asikii kufanya kazi kule, apatiwe nafasi, maana nafasi ziko nyingi Kenya. Alafu vile vile suluhu mwafaka itafutwe. Maana wale watoto ni wetu pia. Hatutaki wakose masomo kule Mandera. Na unajua wakati masomo hamna ndio basi bunduki zitalia zaidi huko. So bwana mkuu wa kamati ya elimu, haya malalamishi ningeomba uangalie kwa undani kabisa, na angalia upande zote za kila pembe, so that tupate suluhu mwafaka, tuone hawa watoto wetu wa kule watasaidika kinamna gani, na wale ndugu zetu ambao wako kule wanalia watakuwa kinamna gani. Maki mimi kijiweka mimi mwenyewe yale niliyaona 1990. Najua wengi wenu hapa Katule mlikuwa kumaliza chuo. Yale niliyaona ilikuwa ni mengi. Na nikiangalia ilikuwa hamna, hata mpaka ikabidi nipeleke mashtaka kwa Minister of Education kule kotini. Bahati mbaya wakanishinda na nikaumia sana. Na nikaenda kuomba msamaha, ndio nikarejea, maana nilikuwa sina namna. So Mheshimiwa Spika, hili swala watu wasilichukulie kimzaha. Waliangalie kwa kina na hili suluhu ipatikane tena kwa haraka ilivyo. Manake wale watoto wakikosa elimu, risasi zitazidi upande ule. Na wale nao kiwa kule hamna elimu inaendelea, manake hawajatulia. Usalama wao upo hatari. Unajua ukishajisia usalama hauko sawa sawa, basi utakuta tumbo lako kila wakati linawaka moto. So hamna kazi unazofanya. So tuangalieni yote hayo, tuyapime na tujaribu kutatua hili sala kisawa sawa. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa hii fursa.
Very well. I will give this opportunity to the leader of minority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion of adjournment. Mr. Speaker, I want to first of all start by congratulating Honorable Sosion for bringing this motion. Now I actually understand why we decided to include in our constitution that we need representation from various sectors of this economy. We needed someone to represent workers, and I think we didn't make a mistake to bring Honorable Sosion to this house. And I want to speak to those busybodies who are trying to interfere with the representatives of workers by trying to make the nomination of Sosion illegal, which it is not, that they should understand that those who can understand problems of workers are actually people who are still in that category of professionals. Because some of us, once you leave your profession, you come to parliament, you forget about them. But if you are still with them, it is easy to appreciate them. And I think in that, it is based on that backdrop, that is why Honorable Sosion has remembered that these teachers are suffering and the attention is needed, but it's not just about teachers. It's also about education.
This time, when they are not employing them during peacetime. I think we are losing a focus as a country. And that I'll request Honorable Sosion. We are teachers, but also hear the plea of these people. If security can be given, I think they should remain there. But we must also know that insecurity is like a bushfire. There is no buffer zone. The moment you say, the moment you allow it, it will come all the way, as they say. There's another member said that it happened in Nairobi here. It has happened all over. The only thing we are saying is that let there be security, and there is no second way about it. It's security and security and security. Also cohesion, because let me tell you something. When the ordinary person sees the mistreatment of the members of parliament, we withdraw their security, like my security was withdrawn. Okay? Do they really feel that they are part of that government? Okay? You also mistreat those communities. You deny them opportunities, you deny them work. You think they'll be comfortable with the communities that are so-called preferred. The moment you show other communities so cohesion must be brought in by the leadership, because that is what has failed. Look at the killing of children. Why would somebody kill a child at a university when they are fighting for their rights? Look at what happened the other day when we were coming from Narok. You were locked on the road throughout. Cars were punctured. Why didn't we see anybody shooting tear gas there? Why did we see them shooting live bullet like they do elsewhere? There was a time we were complaining in Narok about there is a spending of money by national government, people and the governor. What happened to us? Our people were shot dead, we were locked up. So why is this favorism? Why is the law applied selectively? Look at them now. Now is when they realized it also affects them. When we were saying it was bad, they just said exploit it because the Masai will die. How come now we realize that the rivers flow from Masailand to Kisumu? So there are things that are happening that must be. So I like to request that, as the members here said, let us talk fast, but let us provide security for our teachers. Where they are vulnerable, let us remove them. Where they are not vulnerable, let us retain them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well spoken, the Honorable Olekenta. I'll give this opportunity to the Honorable Garane Hire, member for Lagdera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
Honorable Sauti, you have just walked in. You are the last one on the list, but you have not even put in your card.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute on this important adjournment motion. First, I wish to send my heartfelt sympathy and condolences to the teachers, the lay teachers, to the families and friends of the lay teachers. It is something that's not acceptable. It is really paining. It's something that, as a country, we should all come together and face it together. I do not support this adjournment motion. I do not support this adjournment motion because it is very simplistic. It is not giving us the solution to the problem at hand. Mr. Speaker, the areas that are affected by this, we have spoken to them, they spoke to us, and in fact some are willing to continue delivering services to those innocent children because they feel that the rights of those children is not catered for. The measure, the immediate measure, the short-term measure should have been to deploy enough security personnel on those isolated areas where we are having incidents of security issues. And Mr. Speaker, I think the House and the honorable members need to understand that terrorists are not ordinary criminals. These are people who create fear in the minds and hearts of every citizen in this country. They do not just come and pop up. They plan their things. and they make sure they get the desired effect. What is the desired effect here? To create fear in every non-local in the northeastern region, including teachers, including the police, who are supposed to be protecting the people, including doctors. Now, if you go and remove all the teachers, what will you do with the doctors? Because they are doctors, they are nurses, non-locals, serving in Qarsa, serving in the far-flung areas of this country. What will you do to those people? You remove them. That terrorist will follow you up to the capital of Nairobi. We have seen them hitting the commercial hub of the major cities in this world. They have done it in Belgium, they have done it in New York, they have done it in every other every other city in this world. They have done it here in Westgate. So if they mean to kill teachers, they will come and kill teachers here in Nairobi. What will stop from a lone gunman, a terrorist, popping into one of these private schools and shooting teachers? What will stop him? Nothing will really stop him. Therefore, this idea of saying that we remove teachers from northern region is simplistic, it holds no water, and I think it's not the right solution. We are falling for the trap of these terrorists. We are falling for the trap, and therefore we must come with proper measures. We must come with permanent solutions. We must come up as a country with forward-looking strategies. Terrorists will be here today. They will be there tomorrow. And every other day they are evolving and coming up with a sophisticated, approach of forwarding their agendas. If we start firefighting and say we withdraw teachers, I think that is defeating the whole purpose of the integration of this country. I therefore strongly oppose this adjournment motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well spoken. I will give this opportunity to the Honorable Ongera Janet, member for Kisii.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, let me thank Honorable Sosion for bringing this very important motion to our August House. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion. Mr. Speaker, there can never be something more important than when we are discussing the welfare, particularly the lives of teachers. Mr. Speaker, you know that in this country, teachers are the most downtrodden teachers, have been the most downtrodden people in this country. For years, Mr. Speaker, they have been suppressed by the Jubilee government. They have never been paid their dues right. And now, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to a question of insecurity, it shocks me, Mr. Speaker, that the Jubilee government can be so busy pushing and killing children with live bullets. We know the case of baby Pendo and the case of baby Mura. We know that the Jubilee government is an expert in sending tear gas and crushing the Jubilee or the NASA supporters with tear gas. Yet, Mr. Speaker, they have failed on a very important issue, and that is the question of insecurity.
The member for Mosop, just hold on 1 second. The Honorable Ibrahim Abdisalan, what is out of order?
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the member to mislead members of this House that the security sector is informed on this issue, yet a day ago, actually not 2 days ago, we had a meeting with all members of parliament, all the leadership at Wajir, in the presence of the regional commissioner Northeastern and Matiangi, who is in charge of security.
What is the point of order?
And yet they are not aware. The regional commissioner Northeastern is not supporting.
May I be more particular about this matter? Presence of a minister in your region does not guarantee your security. We are talking about security across the country, especially even the regions in Rift Valley, where schools right now are closed. But the concern
the is... Honorable member for Mosop, you will address the speaker. You should not address the
I'm addressing you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, bro.
I'm addressing you, Mr.
And
Speaker.
you have just 1 more minute. I've added you 1 minute.
Asante.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, sir, from my own point of view, what is now very important right now is for the leadership of that affected region to have a closed-door discussion with TAC and the security agencies and try to see as to how far the TAC have been advised on this matter, To me, I feel the solution is this. It has been found out that the local teachers who are in urban areas where there is security are refusing to go to the rural areas. That is the information I have from the teachers from Mosop who are working there. Let the local teachers who are now enjoying, some of them are doing businesses in urban areas and where the security agencies are, to go to their own.
All right. I'll give you an extra minute. Just 1 minute.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I found out from those who are on the ground that even they say leaders who are talking here don't go to these schools, and they have never met them. It is actually wrong for them to come here and tell you they have talked to the local teachers transferred from all over Kenya to their region, and they have never had even a session of having a cup of tea with them. It is actually wrong. And I'm saying this as leaders. Please, it is high time that TSC should have a temporary measure of giving you whatever will now take in the name of security.
Very well. We shall have the honorable member for Budalangi, followed by the member for Kajiado West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, first, as I talk, when Garissa University was attacked, I lost my uncle's son, who was killed there by the Al-Shabaab. And today, you tell even the people of Brerang that your son is going to Garissa University or is going to those sites. It's very difficult, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I'm talking to you, I have a teacher who is in Mandera by the name Wilfred Olua Ondayo, TSC number 654900. He is in Mandera County, Lafay Sub-County, Lafay Boarding Primary School. Mr. Speaker, these people in those places are not sleeping. Even when I was in Korea, these guys do not sleep. They keep on calling their members of parliament, come and save us. Right now, they have come, we have run, we are I don't know, we are in hiding places. It's terrible, Mr. Speaker. When I came, straight away I went to the TSC on Tuesday, Mr. Speaker. I found teachers in hot sunshine being hit because they have closed TSC, that they are not allowing any teacher from Northeastern to access Teachers Service Commission. Terrible. They are on roadside. There is no shade. As if these are not Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, I felt so bad. I entered in that office. I did not even see the TSC secretary. I was told she was out of the office. I left the reason why I went there, so that this teacher can be helped to come out of that place. Mr. Speaker, the issue we are talking about are very serious. Kenya is independent more than 50 years. Those people in Northeastern, they also go to school. They have been going to school. But they have one problem, that when they have educated one person and he happens to come to Nairobi, they all run away, come and stay in Nairobi. They have no homes there. That when they die, they are buried anywhere where they have died. They are not taken back. So they have no ownership of those places. So the people they live there are helpless. Even those MPs elected from those places, they come and stay in Nairobi. So these are very serious
The
issues.
Honorable Abdisalan, you have a point of order.
Here and listen to the fact that the member is alluding that we have no sense of ownership of our area. That is quite misleading.
Very well.
Quite painful, and the member must withdraw, Mr. Chairman.
Point made. In fact, the fact that you are in this house as a member of parliament for that area means that Kenya recognizes that that is an area that is populated and needs representation. So the Honorable Wanjala, member for Budalangi, you're out of order on that. You'll have to withdraw that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are just talking out of experience. Wherever they are, wherever they go, one person comes, He calls another 50 people, they stay in one room.
The point we are out of order on the Honorable Angela is that they do not have a sense of ownership.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, why we say so is that, you know, when
I'm
the
directing you
community
to
has
withdraw
taken you
that.
to school.
I'm just directing you to withdraw that
Okay,
particular
oh,
one. That
I
they do
withdraw,
not have a sense-
Mr. Speaker.
Very well, very well.
Mr. Speaker, I want to support Honorable Sosion, and I want to thank ODM as a party to have at least nominated a teacher, and I'm talking as a teacher, to have brought a teacher here, a teacher of high caliber, who is a Secretary General of all the teachers. Maybe I was here just as a mere teacher, nobody could listen to me. It is good, Mr. Sosion, you have come here. This is where the cake is being baked. And I want to assure teachers that things will be done the way they are supposed to be done because of your presidency and Omboko's presidency. Mr. Speaker, many Somalis are looking for jobs. They have gone to school. They have diplomas, they have C minors, they have Cs, and so on. They are looking for jobs.
Honorable members. The time being 7 p.m., this House stands adjourned till Tuesday, the 13th day of March 2018 at 2:30 p.m.